Hey everyone, welcome back to my Earth Friendly Kitchen. I'm Maria, your host, and today we're going to be making a shrimp and pork my fun. So this is one of my favorite go-to takeout meals whenever we order out for Chinese. But I just love making it at home because, first of all, it's usually a lot lower cost because I can make the same amount of ingredients for the same price for 4 or 5 people as opposed to just myself. So we're going to first start with some My Fun noodles. So these are rice noodles, which is good for me because I'm gluten-free most of the time when I buy like packaged foods. The reason why I say most of the time is, if some of you don't know, is I use regular flour when it's from Italy or Europe when I make other dishes. So I'm just going to add these noodles right into this bowl here. You don't have to boil them like traditional noodles necessarily. You just have to heat them through. So I'm going to take some hot water that I just boiled, and I'm just going to pour it over the noodles and let it sit for about 10 minutes or so while we're cooking everything else up. This is a very fast dish, and I'm making a giant mess with this water. Set those off to the side and let them steep. While they're steeping, clean up your mess. Okay, now that our mess has been sufficiently cleaned, we're going to go ahead and get our mise en place. So mise en place just means everything in its place. For this dish, because it cooks up very quickly, you want to make sure just everything is ready to go when you're ready for it. So first, we're going to start off by chopping 4 cloves of garlic. Okay, so that is a nice fine mince of garlic. Like I said, about 4 cloves. And to the garlic, we're going to add the whites of a bunch of green onions. So my bunch came with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. I'm cutting the very ends, the little hairy ends off. And then I'm going to separate the whites and the greens. The whites will cook with the garlic, and the greens, I'm going to show you how I want to chop those. Whites are just very much in a traditional manner. You'll know when you kind of get to the greens because it'll become a little bit less crunchy and obviously more green. And when you're doing a bunch at once, just kind of have to see through, which ones are more green than others. All right, so the whites will go with the garlic. And then the greens, we're going to do a little bit of like a fancy cut. We call it on the bias, which is on a diagonal. So for this, you want to take a little bit less greens and just take your knife and put it at a 45-degree angle to your stalks that's lengthwise and slice on the bias. This not only adds your chop, but this not only helps your chop, but it adds to the aesthetic. Now your mise en place is very important because if you don't have everything ready to go, especially when you're cooking a fast dish like this one, it can help, burn other things. Like if you're chopping up these on the bias and it's taking you a minute or two, you could very easily overcook your other things that are in the pot that are waiting for you. So I very highly recommend getting the mise en place. Something I learned a lot by watching the late and great Anne Burrell. May she rest in peace. And now I'm going to chop up some shiitake mushrooms. I've already washed and de-stemmed them, so they're just the flat heads. Don't worry, save the stems. They go into my waste broth, or my scrappy broth, so that we don't have any waste. Make some vegetable broth with them, which is always good. And these I'm just going to do a nice thin chop to them. Try to be as kind of even as you can for the cook and aesthetics, but mostly the cook. Okay, so now that these are nice and chopped up, and then the last thing I'm going to chop is some bok choy. I don't have to chop, but I do have here about 2 cups of snow peas, but they don't need to be chopped up. They're just gonna go right in as they are. They're super thin, very crunchy, okay to eat raw, but we give them a little bit of a cook because everything else is cooked in there. So, and the reason why I do the last thing, bok choy, is because I'm gonna wash this after I cut it. Bok choy is like a cabbage or a lettuce, and so the pieces are very tightly bound together. And I just feel like you don't really ever get all the dirt out unless you take them piece by piece. This way I just run my knife through it. I wash it after it's done, but I do it last because then that means it's gonna contaminate my cutting board, and I don't want everything else on my mise en place to be contaminated. So a little fun fact, so you don't have to wash your board in between doing things. And I'm just gonna do a quick rough chop. Kind of wanna do the same thickness as you cut your mushrooms. You wanna do the bok choy right to the edge. Because even the whites will cook down and be good. So now I'm gonna take this to the sink and give it a wash. All right, so now that we have all of our mise en place in place, it's time to get going. And this is going to be rapid fire, guys. We're gonna start by adding some neutral oil to a hot pan, about 2 tablespoons or so. Because we're using very thin sliced pork, doesn't have a lot of fat in it, so it's gonna cook up really quickly, but you need that fat to just help give it some flavor and also help the cook. And I get this from my local Asian market. If you don't have an Asian market by you, try to find one because they're amazing. But they usually come with these thin slices for, like, you know, Korean barbecues and things like that. But if you can always ask your butcher to cut the pork as thin as possible. Or if you don't want to use pork, just leave it out. You can pretty much put whatever protein you want in this: chicken, shrimp, pork. I'm doing pork and shrimp because it goes really well together. It's kind of like a house special chow fun, if you will. So we're just gonna start throwing them in there and cooking them up. And because they're so thin, they're gonna go really fast. Once you get all the pork in, you're gonna wanna make sure that you wash your hands and then just stir it up. Once the pork is nearly cooked and a little bit browned, you wanna take it off of the heat so as to try not to overcook it. I'm doing this in a flat skillet, but you could also do this very easily and quickly in a wok. If you don't have a wok and you don't have an electric skillet, you just do it in a large pot on your stove. And if you don't have cooking chopsticks, then by all means use your regular utensils. These were a gift, so I thought I would try to use them. All right, in the same dish, you're just gonna add 1 pound of clean and deveined shrimp. Clean, deveined, same thing, and shelled. Okay? Right into the pot to cook. You're gonna wanna cook your shrimp for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. You don't wanna overcook your shrimp because then they'll get rubbery. Because we're gonna be adding everything back in at the end to cook all together, you don't wanna overcook them in the beginning especially. You just wanna cook them until they're nice and opaque. When the shrimp seem ready, you want to take them off the heat as well. Okay, off to the side. We're going to add a little bit more oil to the pan. We're going to start with our garlic and whites of the green onions. You're going to sweat those for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once everything starts to become fragrant, you're going to go ahead and add in your mushrooms and your snow peas. You're basically doing like a stir fry now. The reason why you call it a stir fry is because you're constantly stirring while you're frying so that things don't burn or get stuck to your pan. If you had a wok, you could do the, you know, very fancy flips if you have talent. I'm not that talented yet. Kind of like make little baby flips, but not anything significant. As the mushrooms start to soften up, then you're just going to add your bok choy. The great thing about a stir fry is that you can pretty much add whatever vegetables you want to it. You can add bamboo shoots or baby corns or, you know, peas, carrots, whatever you really want. Cabbage. Although bok choy is basically like a Chinese cabbage, right? So everything is nice and softened. The shiitakes are nice and soft. You still want them to have a chewy bite to them, almost like an additional protein. Now, traditional my chow fun, we have a scrambled egg in there as well. So I'm just going to make a little center pot for my egg. Okay, quick scramble. Pour that right in the center. Okay, let it get cooked up a little bit. And then this is gonna go super fast right after this. Start mixing in with all the other veggies. Use them to kind of scrape the bottom of the pan if you need to. All right, then we're gonna add back in our pork, our shrimp, our green onions, about half of them. And then we're gonna add our seasoning finally. So we're gonna add a nice, generous amount of soy sauce, about 4 tablespoons or so. Actually, like 3 tablespoons. Okay. And then we're gonna do about a tablespoon of oyster sauce. Comes out nice and thick. Okay. So we're gonna do a couple of drops of sesame oil. About a half a teaspoon of white pepper. And about a half a teaspoon of ginger powder. You could also do grated ginger if you want, I just didn't have any. Give all of that a nice big mix. Now here's where we take our noodles. They're nice and softened from the hot water. Okay, and we're just gonna pick them up. Make sure it's not too hot. Drop them right into our pan. It's gonna soak up all that delicious juice. Try to drain as much of the water as you can. Okay. The noodles are so plain that they'll just pick up all of those flavors of the sauce and the veggies and the meats around it. Make sure you turn off your heat so that it doesn't overcook once everything is mixed in. All right, and we're gonna serve this up in a bowl, but for now I'm just gonna taste it right out of the pot. I'm telling you, if you had the option of eating in or getting takeout, not only is this the same price as one meal that you would get in a restaurant, it's gonna feed at least 5 people because it makes a ton, and it's fresh and it's delicious and you know exactly what went in it. I hope you guys love it. I hope you try it. If you do, don't forget to say it in the comments. Otherwise, like and subscribe to the channel for more recipes like this. See you on the next one. Bye.